Guilty.
Hello there, and welcome back to my series on pre-MCU Marvel movies that I have never seen. I have not come up with a name for it yet, but that does not change the fact that it is a lead up to a giant video about all of the Fox X-Men movies. Thus far, we have covered the Fantastic Four movies and had a 3-month production drought. That means at this rate, the X-Men video won't come out until 2025. But none of that matters now because we are in the present moment, and it does not do well to dwell upon the future or the past. Unless you're dwelling on movies from the past for a video. Where is this bit even going? This video is about the Ghost Rider movies, starring Nicolas Cage. Unlike the Fantastic Four franchise, this time there are only 2 movies to go off of, and none of them are reboots. Where Marvel's First Families franchise leaned mostly from comically soft to excruciatingly hard sci-fi, the Ghost Rider movies are very much urban fantasy. But not like the Percy Jackson type of urban fantasy, more like the type of urban fantasy that exists mostly on bikers' jackets and incredibly disturbing and highly intimidating memes. And as for the star factor of Nicolas Cage, if you have even a passing familiarity with the actor, then you can probably gather what the appeal of these movies are.
I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! I'm a vampire! Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Open my eyes! Eyes! Ah! I'm a cat. I'm a sexy cat.
There really isn't a lot more else I can do to prepare you for this journey besides saying that, so I guess we'll just jump right in. Oh wow, a Marvel movie. I know what to expect. Some good, clean fun for the whole family. Perfectly safe and... I was completely wrong. This isn't a boring old Marvel movie. This is cool and edgy. This ain't your mama's Marvel movie. My expectations were completely subverted. Anyway, the movie starts with some opening narration that explains everything that's going on. Basically, the devil is real, as are demons in hell. The devil had a demon called the Ghost Rider who collected souls for him. But one day there was this big uber-duper special soul contract that had the power of 10,000 souls. The devil wanted it, but the Ghost Rider was like, no thanks. Jump scared the devil with a negative frame and ran off into the sunset. Which I guess the devil just couldn't do anything about, even though he's the devil. It's kind of unclear whether the movie wants this all-powerful deal-granting devil who can do anything, or the devil from Cuphead. Anyway, after the opening narration, we fast forward to like 15 to 30 years before present day. I'll get to why that range is so broad in a bit, but this whole section is about a teenage Johnny Blaze, a lad permanently afflicted with a case of DreamWorks eyebrows, and the son of a daredevil motorcyclist. Not that kind of daredevil. We'll get to you someday, don't you wait. Anyway, Johnny's dad is like, oh, Johnny, you gotta follow my footsteps and be a stunt performer. And Johnny's like, no, Dad, I wanna be with my girlfriend and run away with her. And his dad's like, well, too bad. I smoke a lot of cigarettes and cough sometimes, so it's obvious I'm dying of lung cancer. And Johnny's like, and the devil's like, hello.
The thing about cancer is the time it takes, the toll on the loved ones. Lives that are altered. Plans that have to be changed.
Oh my god, what was that? That shadow, he looks like the guy from The Nightmare Before Christmas. The filmmakers wanted it to be like super cool and like edgy and stuff, but this just looks like the guy from Powerpuff Girls. This movie's off to a great start. The devil does the thing that the devil always does, and he tells Johnny that he'll cure his father's cancer in return for his soul. He hands Johnny the contract, and while Johnny's looking over it, he accidentally cuts his finger, which bleeds onto the contract, and the devil takes as him signing it? What? This seems unfair. What if he didn't actually want to sign it? There is no established contracty consent here. This seems like a very flawed system. Congratulations to the devil for making a more predatory system than the timeshare industry. The devil disappears, and the next morning, Johnny's dad's cancer is miraculously cured, which he knows right away because I guess he just came back from an MRI scan. The wonders of vaguely 70s to 90s era technology. But it doesn't really matter because in the very next stunt that he does, Johnny's dad's bike explodes, I guess, which obviously lightly chars him to death. Man, what a dick. Now, Johnny is immortal and belongs to the devil, which sucks and means he can't be with the girl he's gonna run away with now. It does make his job as a stunt performer a lot easier now though, which seems a tad unfair. I feel like immortality might give you an advantage there. Though I suppose it's not any different than Spider-Man going into wrestling when he canonically has the power to punch someone's jaw clean off, so. We flash forward to the present day of 2007, and now Nick Cage officially enters the ring! Hell yeah! Literally, in this case. Johnny is a super successful stunt performer now, as we can tell by the movie having the very first thing we see him do be to fail spectacularly at sticking the landing on a stunt. Yeah, just pick him up without checking for a fractured spine or anything, guys. It's not like he could be in shock.
They call him Mr. Invincible.
No. That's a different hero. I'm only really even including this scene because I just wanted to mention the jelly bean martini he's got. Look at that. That's cinema right there. Anyway, the actual conflict of the story is this guy who... Wait, what? Play that again. What was that? Was it like a Smash Bros intro close-up? Surely it's not meant to actually be frightening because this huggy-wuggy looking asshole is not scary in the slightest. This guy is the son of the devil, and he and his sketchy-looking demon friends are going to try and find that contract of 10,000 souls so they can rule the world. But not without killing some bystanders on Earth using the cheese touch. Meanwhile, Johnny drinks coffee straight from the pot when he runs into this woman named Roxanne, played by Eva Mendes, who we're supposed to believe is the girl he fell in love with and abandoned years ago. The obvious problem with the scenario being that she looks about 30 and Nick Cage does not. This is why I mentioned the 15 to 30 year age range before, because either Roxanne aged really well or having your soul sold to the devil really does a number on you. Johnny chases down Roxanne and forces her to stop on a highway so that he can ask her out, which against all logic she agrees to. Later that night, Johnny is apparently late for the date, so Roxanne takes out a magic 8-ball, which she has, in the middle of the restaurant to ask it for advice. This movie is wild, and the flaming skull man hasn't even shown up yet. Speaking of which, Johnny's hands have started glowing, and upon hearing a weird noise in the alley, he finds his motorcycle on by itself, as well as the devil. Old Scratch then forces him to take a flaming joyride to a train yard where discount Billy Joel Armstrong and his cheese touch demons are goofing around, looking for the contract. Once he gets there, the bike kicks him off and he starts caging it up. Jeez, that's like really cool. And also kind of grotesque, though the effect is somewhat lessened by the random explosion transitions. As you may have guessed, Johnny is now the Ghost Rider, a fiery motorcycle riding, leather-clad skeleton spirit that he transforms into to punish the wicked. In this scene, he kicks some demon ass, and it's honestly kind of sick.
Have mercy. Sorry. All out of mercy.
His one-liners may be lame, but he sure isn't. Then the Ghost Rider rides off into the night to go stop a mugger. Now he doesn't stop him by beating him up, and he doesn't even stop him by like burning him to death or anything. Instead, he stops him by staring into his eyes and showing him every bad thing he's ever done, leaving him in a catatonic state. In the comics, this is called the penance stare, and I won't even lie, this whole sequence is unironically pretty cool. Like, it's 2000s cheesy, but it's still fun. Anyway, I won't go through the rest of the movie beat by beat because after this point it honestly loses a lot of momentum. The rest of the movie is just Johnny as the Ghost Rider killing the rest of these demon guys before they can take over the world, while also being under investigation for the murder of all those guys that those demons killed. with the cheese touch. No, I won't quit with that bit. It's too funny. Also, I only mentioned this whole on the run plotline because it is a factor in the ending, but also it results in this amazing scene where Johnny is put in jail, starts fighting with the inmates, turns into the Ghost Rider, beats up all the guys, and then steals the ringleader's leather jacket, using his powers to make the spikes bigger. This is the kind of stuff that makes me love this movie. There is also, of course, the romance plot. There isn't really much to say here that I haven't already mentioned. After Johnny's late, there's some back and forth about him not keeping his promises, some will they, won't they stuff. They will, spoiler alert. They get together towards the final act of the movie, but don't end up sticking together because of what ends up going down the final act, which I'll get to. It's such a by-the-numbers romance storyline that I don't even really know why they included it. The movie certainly could have benefited from some runtime reduction. Speaking of weirdly inconsequential plot lines, there's this whole segment of the movie dedicated to Johnny's interactions with this old graveyard guy, who is obviously the old Ghost Rider from like the first or second scene you see him in, but it's still treated as this big old reveal when he says he's got that 10,000 soul contract. He then rides with Johnny in his Ghost Rider form to the final climax, scorching this innocent little lizard to a fine crisp for no reason? What was this? And then just dipping when they actually do get there, being like, oh, this is your fight. And he also says he can only turn into the rider one last time, and he saved it for that? For a glorified ride-along? This guy would be terrible at resource management. If he was in charge of managing the funds for some company cars, he would spend all of the money on really cool tires and then forget to pay for gas. Anyway, by the time the finale rolls around, the Demon Prince guy has kidnapped Eva Mendes as bet, all the other demon guys are dead, and Johnny is willing to give him that contract in exchange for Eva Mendes. Gerard Way takes the deal, eats up all the souls in the contract, and turns into a cat. I don't know what it is about this, but it just screams cat to me. Like, maybe that's just me. I know literally nothing about his appearance is actually like cat-like. It's just, it gives me that vibe, you know? Johnny shoots at him with a shotgun, like that'll do anything. They all fight for a bit until the Ghost Rider pins down the Prince guy and uses the penance stare on all 10,000 souls. Eva Mendes then puts her hand on the Ghost Rider's face, and fortunately, the fire moves so that she can do this. Can you imagine if it didn't, though? Oh, Johnny, I love you.
I love you too, but don't you think I should change back into human form before we do this?
No, I'm sure it will be fine. It's a very obvious assumption that anyone would make that your flaming vengeance demon powers would allow me to make safe physical contact with you.
Well, okay.
Then of course the devil shows up and is like, okay buddy, I'm going to give you your soul back and take back those demon powers that have literally been ruining your life and literally fix everything for you. And then Johnny's like, no. For some reason, he says it's so that he can fight against the devil, which I guess, yeah, that's fair. But the devil allows this for some reason, which either means that he's a pushover or that he just is not powerful enough to take back the powers that he gave Johnny. I don't really get it. But then the devil's like, see ya, and Johnny's like, I can't be with you since I'll be on the run from the police and the devil, to Eva Mendes. Then they make out, all while they're at the same tree they carved into during that magical time when they used to be the same age. And finally, Johnny rides off into the sunset, returning to the DreamWorks eyebrows of his youth and embracing the Ghost Rider mantle. So this movie really was not very good at all. It was cliche, full of flat characters, and definitely could have benefited from at least a half hour shaved off its runtime. But it's such a wild ride, and it's actually really fun in places. The first hour is way better than the rest, but there's some really great quote-unquote cage rage moments, and the general campy tone throughout that means I can't help but enjoy myself watching it. It's bad, but it's really fun. But, as it seems is always the case, the next installment takes a turn for the worst. I think that making videos for this series really helps me appreciate just how good we have it now in terms of superhero movie quality. Because sure, there's a lot of fatigue with Marvel right now, and the most recent movies have had some mixed reception. These movies are still like competently made. And while they're really not that great in a lot of ways, they still have a lot of entertainment value and coherence to them. Making this series has taught me that some of the 2000 superhero movies and the early 2010s non-MCU movies have been some of the most abysmal movies I've ever had the misfortune of seeing. You know which one I'm talking about. And while the first Ghost Rider movie wasn't that great, it still had a lot of entertainment value, so it's comparable to the first Fantastic Four or Thor Love and Thunder for me, which are certainly quite flawed, but I can still have a good time watching. I'm gonna get so much shit for saying something good about Love and Thunder. Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance has a lot more in common with Fant Four Stick. It's not quite that level because that is a high bar of dog shit to clear, but it's getting there. This movie commits what is probably the worst crime a movie can commit as a movie. It's so boring, which is hard to do in a movie where the main character pisses fire. The basic plotline is that there's this church somewhere in Europe run by Giles in his retirement that has a kid who is somehow important because of some prophecy or other. Idris Elba is also there as like a French priest assassin type guy. I'm only mentioning him because he's played by Idris Elba and I just felt I had to acknowledge that Idris Elba was in this movie. Anyway, Idris Elba doesn't do a very good job of protecting the kid because armored goons swarm the church and almost succeed in kidnapping him. But then this lady, who turns out to be the kid's mother, kidnaps him instead. And Idris Elba falls off a cliff, so he's definitely dead, right? Meanwhile, we get this honestly pretty neat animated recap of the last movie that takes some creative liberties, like fixing it so that Johnny actually made the deal on purpose and didn't just get sucked into it through an inconvenient paper cut. In the present live action era, Johnny is on the run and now wants to get rid of his powers, even though at the very end of the last movie he defied the devil to keep them. What happened to protecting the innocent from the devil? I guess it's kind of like when you prepare for a road trip and you're all excited during the prep phase, but then you actually get in the car and you're driving and you realize that you hate it because you hate being in the car, and that's like 90% of the road trip, and it's really not worth it to go to all rainforest cafes in the world. It's just not. It's just not. It's just not. Sorry, I don't know what came over me there. But you know, all that with flaming vengeance demon powers from hell instead of a road trip. Then Idris Elba shows up. In fact, still alive, and the reveal of how he survived is so funny.
My brothers are dead, as should I be, if not for the intervention of God. And you are...
Is this real? This is cut like a Family Guy cutaway gag. This movie is terrible, way worse than the last one, but there are some glimpses of entertainment value like this here and there. Anyway, Idris Elba wants Johnny to use his Ghost Rider powers to track down young Jesse Pinkman here, because he needs protection. And he promises Johnny that he can help him get rid of his curse in return. Which, you know, probably wouldn't help the whole police being after him thing, but it's a nice gesture nonetheless. Now you may be wondering, what is the deal with this kid? What could he possibly be that has to do with a Christian prophecy and has the demonic forces of the devil after him that the Ghost Rider can track, and who is starting to develop mysterious demonic powers that are more powerful than anyone could have ever imagined? What could he possibly... He's the Antichrist. It's really not that difficult to piece together. He seems like a nice kid though, so that's a good bonus. There was something that bothered me a bit about this movie though. So this lady, who I'm just going to refer to as such because I can't be bothered to look up her name, and it's not like there are any other female characters in this story. Anyway, I found it odd that they have her as this like shifty lady who pickpockets people and had a child with the devil. But then they also gave her dark curly hair and explicitly called her out as Romani when the actress is apparently Italian. I don't know, that just seemed pretty iffy on this movie's part. And who knows? Maybe I'm just reading a bit too much into it, but I wouldn't put it past a 2011 action movie to be a little bit racist. Moving on, Johnny stalks the kid and his mom until they are set upon by some of the devil's hired mercenaries, which seems like a bit of a step down from the henchmen of the previous movie. The Ghost Rider makes his first appearance in the film, and I'll actually give the movie this. The Rider looks a lot better in this one. The CGI is better, the design has got this cool as hell melting look, and the skull is just better shaped. And it's not just the look either. The scenes where the Ghost Rider actually shows up are easily the best scenes in this movie. Though in this case he is defeated with grenades and the goons capture the Antichrist kid. Johnny wakes up in the hospital with the lady and reconvenes, convincing her to let him help her find her son. This segment of the movie is where we get some of the only interesting scenes with Nick Cage's performance. For example, he and Woman go to interrogate this one guy who runs an underground fighting ring in order to go and figure out where the guys are who kidnapped the kid. And the way that Johnny talks to the guy here while the Ghost Rider is just underneath the surface is just peak Cage rage.
You're a bad man. And this thing, the Rider, he feeds on Batman and he's hungry. He's hungrier than he's been in years, and that's why I'm shaking. Because right now, the only thing standing between you and the Rider is me. And he's scraping at the door. Scraping at the door!
Now this scene is great, but there's a bit right before it that's just really weird. It's on the drive to this guy's headquarters, where Johnny wakes up from a nightmare and then starts going all Bruce Banner on the lady.
When we get where we're going, the Rider's going to come out. And when he does, he'll destroy whoever's got it coming. There's no reason, no conscience, just hunger.
I am. If I was her, this would be the point where I'd pull over and tell him to ride on his own. The dude's got a magic flaming bike. He'll be fine. But yeah, no, this is totally fine. No problems here. Anyway, Johnny and Lady then find the guys who have the kid, and then the best scene in the entire movie takes place. I take it back. This movie is incredible. The next day, the devil finds one of the guys at the accident and turns him into someone who can make things decay at his touch. So basically pollution from Good Omens, but not incredibly attractive. He then sends him to go and find the kid, which leads to probably the best intentional joke in the movie.
That's so weird.
This is moderately clever, though unfortunately inaccurate because contrary to popular belief, Twinkies actually have a very short shelf life. Also, the only thing that's hellish about this is how he opens the Twinkie wrapping. Meanwhile, Johnny takes a pit stop to go and drink water straight from the pitcher, and then the trio are on the road to meet Idris Elba, who is staying with a group of monks that seem to perpetually live in Breaking Bad, Mexico. Then there's a weirdly religious turn the movie takes, where Idris Elba basically has Johnny pray to God to help get rid of his curse, and then talks about how Johnny is like actually an angel and stuff. Well, I say it's weirdly religious, then again, this is a franchise that's literally about the devil and demons and hell, so maybe I shouldn't be surprised. Rainn Wilson would probably say I have an anti-Christian bias or something. Anyway, Johnny has a Doctor Strange moment and falls through the white void, only to wake up and find out that his curse has been lifted. Unfortunately for him, the kid he was supposed to protect is about to be sacrificed by the monks. What? These guys? Human sacrifices? No one could have ever seen that coming. Before the kid dies, the decay guy comes in and saves him, turning the monks into additions to the Pompeii exhibit and kidnaps him to take him to the devil. It is now that we find out exactly what the devil's plan is, which is that his devil soul powers don't make his body immortal, so he needs to do a ritual to possess an Antichrist child. He's done this a lot, which I guess implies that he's been his own father for centuries as this cycle continues. But unfortunately for him, Johnny and crew crash the party, and the Antichrist kid uses his devil powers to make Johnny the Ghost Rider again. And then they duke it out in a huge car chase. I thought Johnny couldn't be the Ghost Rider in the daytime. I guess it's just another detail they conveniently forgot about the last movie. The Ghost Rider sends the devil
Back to hell.
and then becomes Sans Undertale. Hell yeah, the best origin story. The Undertale cinematic universe is only just beginning. So these movies aren't good. That much is pretty obvious, they're not good movies. However, the first one is really entertaining. Everything in this movie, including Nicolas Cage's weird performance, the hokey villains, the jelly bean martini, the insanity of the concept, and the genuinely fun action set pieces all just give this movie an incredibly unique charm, and definitely solidifies it as one of the movies in the Nicolas Cage Hall of Fame, up there with Vampire's Kiss and National Treasure. It's a bit too long at 2 hours, and definitely could easily be a half hour shorter, but otherwise I wholeheartedly recommend it if you have a friend group that enjoys sitting around and riffing on a movie, or just watching it while on illicit substances. In that case, the Ghost Rider movie is a perfect pick for you. However, the second one, while having some of the same charm, is ultimately way less entertaining. I pointed out a lot of the goofy stuff in this video, but that's because I left out all of the boring stretches of this movie that I can't really comment on because, well, there's nothing to say. This movie is paced horrendously. It's a half hour shorter than the previous one, but it feels like it's 3 hours longer. I can't tell you how many times I was looking at the little time code on my video player and just waiting for it to be over with already. Little glimpses of the campy spirit of the original do shine through, but it's overall trying to go for a slightly more grounded and serious action tone than the first one, which doesn't really work for Ghost Rider, at least not this time and not for this Ghost Rider. But hey, maybe I just have high standards. Who am I to argue with flame pissing? Overall, I do think I enjoy these movies more than the Fantastic Four movies. While the first two Fantastic Four movies were better than both of these movies, they didn't have that same wild charm that the first and parts of the second still have. And Fanforstic drags the average rating of those movies way down. The power of Nick Cage and Victor, am I right?
There is no victor. There is only doom.
Okay, geez man, sorry, I didn't realize we were so insensitive about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really like doing these old Marvel movie videos, and I look forward to doing more of them in the future. Feel free to check out my socials, including my community Discord server and my Letterboxd, all of which are linked down below, along with my brand new Patreon page. What? That's right, if you didn't see my 3,000 subscribers milestone video, which is probably most of you, I announced my brand new Patreon page. If you want to have all the tiers and stuff explained, you can watch that video, which I'll put in a little card like right about now. Subscribe to it if you feel so inclined. It would really mean a lot to me if you did. But also don't overextend yourself. If you can't afford it, or if you just don't really want to but still want to show support to the channel, you can always like the video, comment with any thoughts you may or may not have had, share it with anyone who might enjoy it, or subscribe if you're new and you liked my handsome mug. It really seriously supports the channel and helps me continue doing what I do. I sincerely hope that you're having an excellent day and/or that your day just continues to get better. And I guess I'll see you in the next video. Bye.
Wait, you think I'm pretty, right?